it in front of me.
Welcome to Co-op Mode Video Game Reviews. We're a monthly video game podcast where four guys talk about a video game of their choice. I'm Mike Espy.
Hello, Mike Espy. I'm Ben Teed. Welcome back to another episode.
This is awesome, man. And today, Ben and I will be discussing, for their 55th episode, Dead Space 3.
Sweet.
You sound really enthused. Considering
Sweet.
considering the fact you played this twice, actually.
Yeah. I played this once, I think, probably about a year or so after it came out. Maybe not even that long. I remember it went on sale very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up picking it up, I think, through maybe like a Humble Bundle or something like that. And I had played the second one. I think we had played through Dead Space 2. I think it was probably around the time we were playing Dead Space 2. And I continued on while we were doing our other games, so because I wanted to see it through to the end.
Oh, so you actually... Okay, I didn't realize you did it far ahead. You jump ahead on these games quite a bit. It's kind of amazing, to tell you the truth. It really is.
Sometimes. It depends on what it is.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, like sometimes I'll be playing it, and then like a year or two later, it's like, we're going to be playing this for the show. And I'm like, oh, well, I've already played it.
I already played it.
Great.
Yeah.
That'll work. But I'll usually revisit it, just because it's been a year and a half or so.
Uh-huh.
It's about time for Batman Arkham Asylum again, ain't it?
Yeah.
I played it I was in the middle of it this time last year, and so give it a year and a half and we'll be playing it again.
So Josh is not here. I know that he's playing the game, but when we asked him about the status where he was at, he was about 20% in, and I think Chris tried booting it up on his computer, and from what I understood, that the graphics driver on his computer, like his laptop, is no longer in support, so I think it was not manageable for him as well. And the fact that, believe it or not, we are actually a month behind schedule. This is actually supposed to be a June episode, but and given the fact, playing, man, at the age we're at, we're not old, but when you have a lot of responsibilities and this thing is not your job, it's kind of hard to coordinate a time to actually play co-op, because that's how Ben and I played this game, which is a lot of fun, to say the least, because I will get right into it right now. When I started playing this game, I was doing solo, and I got about 6 chapters in, and I think the title of Dead Space kind of had a new meaning for it, especially the fact that I knew within the first 2 games that you were always going to be on your own. You were very isolated from everyone else, and that was fine. But when there was an opportunity when co-op was presented, I had immediately thought, man, I really want to play this game with somebody else and see if there's a different type of experience. And believe it or not, there are a few side missions here and there that actually offer a different experience, which we will tap into later on. And I think those side missions are well worth it, because just example that Ben played the other character Carver, and I played as Isaac, since it was my first time playing through, which made more sense, and then him to play as the other character. There are instances where in a side mission much later in the game where he was seeing things that I was not seeing, and I think that's totally rad. But back to the point of the Dead Space had a new meaning for me, just being by yourself in this game, and I felt like it kind of reminded me of The Thing, just being isolated and you had nothing but creatures coming at you, or although there's not none of them are disguised as humans or anything like that, but just being on a snowy world and just everything's just so desolate, and just this dread of loneliness. I just had this feeling of doing this by myself was just, I didn't want to do that. It didn't sound fun. So when you and I were gaming together, there was like this sense of relief, not because I was just having somebody else to game with, but it was just I was starting to feel that the weight of the title was actually was a feeling I was having, and I'm not sure if you ever had that experience with playing the game by yourself, Ben.
I gotta say the playing it through the first time, I definitely enjoyed it more the second time, but I wouldn't say the first time was bad by any means.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say it feels the 1 and 2, Dead Space 1 and 2 when they came out in 2008 and I believe it was 2011 was Dead Space 2.
Yeah, I think so.
Those were specific times where those types of games are very inner space of headspace Dead Space of Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can directly relate my enjoyment of 1 and 2 and the alone time I spent with those games directly related to each game's story. How he goes through the stages of grief and death. In both games, actually, he goes through the same thing twice. Whereas this one is a little bit more actiony. It spends a lot less time on Isaac, and actually, I would say Isaac's a little bit less interesting in this one, and very just kind of not. He's really kind of not there. Ouch! Dog's biting my toes. But you have Carver there that kind of makes things interesting, even though he's not. I wouldn't say anything new story wise. Something you haven't seen before in like maybe a movie or like a horror film or something like that.
Yeah,
or maybe
I agree.
Some comics or whatever. But definitely something I don't think I've seen in a co-op experience game yet. Okay, so on the wall are a bunch of faces, like children's faces, and a woman's face, and now they're all bleeding out of the eyes.
Isaac, are you seeing this? What?
See what we want you to, John. That's what the woman's saying.
What are you talking about, Isaac?
So just to explain, there, as you know, SB, there's 3 to 5 hours of extra content in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That you can only access if you're playing co-op. So some of it I couldn't. There are side missions and stuff like that, which often end with you getting some really cool weapons and bonuses and stuff like that, and all sorts of things to upgrade your guns. But in some of them, they are Carver story specific, where it reveals some backstory, and I don't know how I don't know what the deal is with our spoiler territory here or anything like that. I don't really. I mean, I'm thinking at this point, it's probably okay. But
anything goes, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say at this point, it's 3-year-old game and which by the way, it doesn't seem like it's that. It seems like it's older.
Yeah, it does.
It seems like it's been around longer, but it really hasn't. And I think it's probably one of the better looking games of last generation. Like it's beautiful and every bit of it. Like they spared no expense with the what is it, like the design, like the look and the sound design and stuff like that is all very, very good. But I would say going back to my experience playing it single player, I remember loving the way it all looked and sounded, and it played very well and stuff like that. It was much more actiony and whatnot. But I remember the story kind of being a letdown, mostly just because there really isn't one. I mean, it's very, very minimal. There's just enough to have action set pieces and stuff like that, which is a whole nother thing that this game does very well, is get you out of space. Even though there's space in the game, I know people that haven't played it. I don't want to scare them off and say that there's no space in it, but there's definitely some outside environments that you don't really get in Dead Space 1 or 2. Meaning like there's more natural, organic looking spots.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree that Dead Space 1 and 2 really focused on being on ships out in space, being in confined areas, and with Dead Space 3 that was not the case, because a lot of the times you are on I would say after you crash land onto the ice planet or snowy planet, or basically Hoth, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty open and it's vast and very desolate, like I said. And the thing is, that's the other scare factor was not due from the aliens or the necromorphs, but like when you and I were playing through the trenches of the snowy trenches, yeah, I was just thinking to myself, like, doing this by myself just seems awful. Being on this journey just seems so lonesome, and I don't think I would ever want to do that. Like, and I think there's a purpose with that design, because I was feeling that dread, and I guess the game kind of got harped on because it wasn't as scary. It was more action shooter based, and I can understand that complaint. But you gotta admit, though, like how much can you really be scared by these necromorphs? I mean, except for jump scares, or I don't know. Like I don't know what you can do to really like kind of make this game more inventive in a way, because I think the first one did a really good job because you're an engineer, and I think it follows the same footsteps as Alien. You have a bunch of people who are not military trained whatsoever, and they're basically a bunch of explorers, scientists, and they don't know really how to. I'm not gonna say they don't know how to defend themselves, but they're not well equipped to do that, and that's another scary thing. And they're on a ship in space; they can't do much. Well, that's the same exact thing with Dead Space. You're an engineer; you have tools at your disposal to help you out, but you're not a really like trained fighter. But then then it comes along Aliens, and Dead Space 2 does a similar thing, where it's just more variations of them, and they just keep coming and they keep coming and keep coming, and that's more of the scare factor right there, that it just seems like an endless bunch of them. And we already know what one can do, but what can multiple aliens do? You know what I mean? And then Alien 3, well, I kind of think where Alien 3 bit the dust, but aren't they on a desolate location as well in that one? And they have.
It's been a long time since I've seen that one. I don't think maybe I have. Maybe I haven't seen it. I don't know. It's hard for me to tell. All I remember is an alien right up next to the window and something exploding, and yeah, that's all I remember.
Something exploding. But I feel like Dead Space really takes its cues from the Alien movies. I really do.
Absolutely. And The Thing.
Yes.
There's a little bit of that with them turning into any of John Carpenter, scary. Out in the snow, winter is hell, like to go through.
Yes, pretty much.
So.
Yeah, I would agree that. Yeah, I feel like it has a John Carpenter vibe. It has a Thing vibe to it, especially when you shoot the soldiers. That if you shoot them in half, they have like these tentacles that come out from their mid body, like with spikes on them, that start whipping at you, and they're still walking around. Those always made me uncomfortable to see too. I thought that was really creepy.
Yeah.
So a lot of things with this game, though. I always thought that it's very heavily plot driven. Pretty much, I think kind of falls under the tropes of saving the world again, and I think that can be really tiresome. I'm not sure if you would agree or not, but pretty much you have to stop the markers, and especially this cult in this game, and the people. There's a group of this cult in this game here. They are obsessed with the markers, and I don't know how to word it properly. Did they think it was like a renewing of themselves or something? I can't remember what it was exactly, but they are obsessed with the markers, and they thought it would be like.
Yeah, I think the fact that we don't really know is kind of a testament as to how well thought out this whole plot is. But that's literally my biggest gripe with the game itself is that, you know, in 1 and 2 you have this very personal, mostly personal journey that's being taken with Isaac. You know, Isaac, you think about the setting of the first one, it takes place on one ship. As far as I can tell, it takes place on one ship. And in the second one, you are dealing with what just happened. I mean, you're like fresh back in to humanity. You're feeling good. You know, oh, thank goodness I'm back, you know. And as you're feeling a little better, you know, as Isaac's feeling a little better, I remember running around the ship without a gun, and you still have your, like, patient robes on and stuff like that. Like, you still got what is it called, that what you wear at the hospital. There's still a bit of that, you know, where you are, you know, amidst the colony cities and stuff like that, and you're walking around, but never before. I mean, you end up, spoiler alert for 2 as well. We've talked about that on our show. Mm-hmm. You go back to the Ishimura and stuff, like, you know, there are moments in 2 that make you deal with Dead Space 1. I even think improve on what's going on in Dead Space 1. Whereas 3, it feels so separated from the other 2. It doesn't feel like a smaller, tinier, more cerebral journey. It's not really about Isaac. It's not really about anything, as far as I can tell. There is a bad guy. His name's Danik, I think.
Yes.
And he's trying to make this happen for some reason. He's trying to. There's like a marker on Earth and stuff like that, and he tries to get the marker. He tries to. There's a planet that makes markers, and you end up having to go there, and you jump from like wreckage to wreckage on the outside of that ship and stuff like that. And I guess it's kind of cool, but like that's really it. It all looks cool. It all sounds cool. It all plays really well. It's just you're really just going from set piece to set piece, and there's no real narrative thread. I'm sorry to whoever wrote this game, but and maybe they had a script for a really good game, but you know, when these things are done by committee, a lot of the times, I'm sure it kind of ruins that creative that creativity that you had set up, and you want to make it work. But you know, for me, it definitely didn't. But I don't think that ruined necessarily my I agree. Time with the game.
No, it didn't, because I don't. Aside from the story really lacking, and I think that's where my major gripe lies in just character development, because I agree that 1 and 2 were more inner turmoil with Isaac, and it was more of like a personal journey, and whereas 3, it's an external. There's nothing really internally conflicting with Isaac except the fact that him and Ellie aren't dating, and I wouldn't even consider that internal at all. It's just like, well, okay, well, they're not dating now. All right, that happened really fast.
And Ellie.
Yeah.
I love you. You know that, right?
What? Yeah, of course. Isaac, meet us at the cliff.
Got it.
And open the cage.
No.
What?
You want to die here? Now's your chance. I'm taking control of this mission again.
Hey, where you going?
Saving Ellie. North!
I think this game has some really great moments that really lend itself to have like a little bit of that do have some tension. I mean, I think when we were still on the ship in like the cargo supply area, when we encountered that regenerated necromorph, I remember feeling a little tense, a little scared, for sure. Run!
Oh shit! This one's regenerated!
Oh my god! Oh fuck me! Oh my god! Behind us! Behind us!
The tram will arrive shortly. Please stand by.
Out in the snowy area that I think I put it in like a clip of it, a couple clips of it in the actual intro. There was like a snow battle with this creature that kind of had like a scorpion-like tail, scorpion-like body, something to that extent. You know what I'm talking about? We were up in that lift and bust through that lift, and your character got hit by the tail, and then we had this shoot 'em out battle with it out in the snow. Do you remember that? Like,
are you talking about just the giant thing in the snow where we had to shoot the little like the little harpoons into it and like pull it apart?
I think that might have been it. Yes.
That was about 2/3 into the game.
I think so. But no, there was another one. Like when we encountered that other bug, when we were in conversation with Danik, and then we had the AI start shooting at us. Do you remember that one bit where, like, it's right before we get swallowed up?
I'm shooting him.
Behind the rock! You wouldn't believe the trouble you said.
Are we getting shot at?
Nice work.
Yeah.
What? Marker killer Isaac Clarke.
Yeah, this is a
Here
bug.
we are. The marker homeworld. I must admit, I almost did. What the hell? Shit, what's that?
Come on! You fucking kidding me?
Move, Norton!
Wait.
His belly.
Oh.
His belly. Fucking Gears of War. And in Zelda. Maybe this is a real elaborate test.
What the fuck?
Hey, it's me too. I got down into the poop as well. It's gonna shit us out! why they do Let's Play. I have a moment. It is content exclusive. Like if you haven't played or you don't want to be spoiled about the Carver stuff.
Yeah.
I would avoid it. But like there were moments when we're walking around the some of the space, in the ships and stuff like that, and I was seeing like these toy soldiers and like gifts, like birthday gifts and birthday banners and stuff like that saying happy birthday. And as we would continue on and deeper into this crazy environment or whatever, that they would get more and more dark, like some of the imagery would become more disturbing. The birthday banners wouldn't say birthday anymore. It would say something really dark and foreboding, or like kill or something, something. All the while, Michael's character Isaac is right next to me, and he sees none of it. Like he didn't see any of it. So that was a cool moment and a neat way to kind of spell out that Carver isn't all that he seems. He's also a damaged soul, and you find out the reasons why, him being a military man and him being so close to, or just wanting to be away. Or I would suggest he wants to be away from all of it, not around his family and whatnot. But he feels this guilt about his death of his son and his wife, and not being there for him when he's out, on some ship or the moon or something like that. So
yeah, his character was. I was really surprised by how sad that character is. Well, that's not creepy.
Where?
The audio recording.
Oh.
Someone just laughing at me.
Nope. Not on mine.
What do you mean, not on yours?
No one's. A lady is talking on mine.
Well, that's fucked up.
She's saying like my body being pulled apart piece by piece.
Oh. See.
By the way, do you see the? Oh, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Well, because it sounded like the Joker on my end just laughing at me.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And I think it's just really weird that, like you said, you've played this game all by yourself. Did you get any type of information like that from him? Like that was not at all, was it?
No. And actually, any of the new characters that they bring aboard on any of this stuff, you don't get a single bit of backstory with them. Like not even the villain. Like you don't even know why the villain wants to do this. Like at least with the second game, Dead Space 2, you do get like, they're what is it called? Unitologists, and they wanna unite everyone and unleash the marker, and like it's a real deranged, scary religion almost, or something like that. And that's really enough. That's all they need to really say. But here, I'm not sure why exactly Danik wants to do this. I mean, they're not Unitologists. I mean, I suppose I could look it up on Wikipedia, but I'd actually like to like engage with the piece of art rather than
mm-hmm.
than because he's not a Unitologist. I don't think he is.
I thought they were, but I could be wrong.
They could be. I don't know. I guess I thought they were separate, but excuse me. Ellie makes it back, and you already have history with her, and I always thought she was a good character because she's that other person on board the ship in 2 that you are fighting to get out with. Like you guys' paths cross more than once, and you help each other out with different different things in 2. But in this one, it's just like you're fighting over her with another guy, and the guy's a jerk, and honestly, I think Ellie's complete shit in this one because I don't see why in her right mind, in her situation, she thinks that this is okay behavior for this guy to act this way. But I like I said, I'm sorry whoever wrote this. I'm sure you had a great script before, and they changed it all. They, meaning the committee, changed it all for you. I apologize, but man, Like, it's just it's unfortunate because I actually don't really care for any of the characters in the game this time around, except maybe Carver, because he is seemingly like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to make this happen. And Isaac, for the most part, wants to do it, but there's a moment at the end where he gets kind of like, all right, he's getting a little ridiculous. But even Danik's kind of an interesting character, and he's very well voice acted. I wish I could give you the guy that voiced him, because he deserves a lot of credit. But I just, it was just the plot, man. What the hell? What's going on? So
yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
I'm just gonna be complaining about that the whole episode. So sorry.
It's all right. No. Like I'm trying to be very respectful of the people who put the time into this game, like, or any game in general.
Oh, you always should, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm right there with you. This story, I can't wrap my head around it, because when you come from playing Dead Space 1 and 2 and you come to this, you're just like, what just happened here? Because the characters that I were interested in, I am no longer interested in. The character that I am most interested in, you don't get much out of him unless you play co-op. So it's like, I mean, I guess that's a bonus. Like, the developers consider Carver to be a bonus, and I really think he is a bonus, essentially. That's what he is. And I would highly recommend, whenever the time Carver starts having these episodes, or acting up, I highly recommend, and I think both Ben and I will agree, that you act upon those side missions, because a lot of the side missions, they're great for like collecting resources as well, like for crafting items, for your guns, and not only that, to upgrade your rig as well. I mean, it's all worth it, but it can get tiresome because some of the environments are very repetitive. But when it came to Carver stuff was like, yeah, you probably saw some of the same environments, at least I did, but like Ben mentioned, like, and I wish I had footage of this too, like, what I would have loved to see what you were seeing, because just you describing it gave me the creeps, because I'm like, what the hell is going on in this guy's head? I am really fascinated by this right now. And like, that was like legitimate creepy, because I think that was probably the creepiest moments in the game for me, was you spelling out everything of like what you were experiencing. That to me was very frightening, because it deals back with the whole inner turmoil stuff here, and that's the kind of stuff that really got to me in the first two games. And with the game being very external, having these moments with Carver was like kind of like a sigh of relief, to tell you the truth, man, because though I gotta admit, like, I got goosebumps when you were talking to me about what was going on. And I'm
yeah. So I was describing to you as we were living through some of this crazy crap that was going on screen, and it was fun to be like, did you hear that? And he's like, no, and so it was like I said, like, it is really cool. I do recommend. Well, we'll get to recommendations at the end, but like, it was one of those things though that like, I do think that it's important to play it at least once without anybody. There is a bit of, well, no, I guess I'm trying to think back. In every version, even if you play it with or without co-op, they do somehow put Carver in every single scene, if I remember correctly. Or if they don't, because when me and SB were playing it together, like, Isaac would get thrown, and then they would show, like, in the background, like, Carver going in the background a little bit, because he's there too. But I want to say in some of those instances he wasn't, and that Carver would just show up periodically, just whenever the story served the purpose of the story. you know, because it made sense to.
Yeah. There was I agree. There was moments that
Or rather, did make sense to.
Yeah, there's moments he just kind of popped in and was like, "Hello, hey, I'm here." And it's like, "Whoa, where'd you come from, bud?" He just seemed like out of place, like as in like he wasn't I guess naturally he wasn't supposed to be there because it's technically Isaac's story. So it's all about Isaac's journey to stopping Danik from releasing the markers, and then finding out that the markers were created by aliens, and the aliens didn't want this technology to get out. But I don't know, man. Let's go back into story stuff that really confuses the shit out of me.
What other Visceral games do you know of? By the way, do you have any, like, besides the Dead Space series? And they also did the Extraction game, which is on PlayStation Move and Wii, PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 3 Move.
No, I'm only familiar with Dead Space.
I got a list. I actually got a list up here. They got as they go as far back as 1998 with Future Cop, LAPD. I'll only go through some of the big ones. 007 Agent Under Fire. They also did the Everything or Nothing, like it's not based on a movie or anything like that. They did From Russia with Love, so a bunch of James Bond ones. Some Lord of the Rings games, the Godfather games, the Simpsons game, which I have always meant to play. We might have to do that on the show. Obviously the Dead Spaces, Dante's Inferno, which came out in between Dead Space 1 and 2.
Okay.
Dead Space 2 and 3 came out like within a couple years of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Dead Space 3 apparently sold way under their expectation, and that's why you haven't seen a Dead Space 4 yet. But Visceral did get picked up by I believe EA has hired them out, or EA is overseeing all the Star Wars stuff. I think they're doing the publishing. The developing for this untitled Star Wars game is coming supposedly in 2017.
That's cool.
So,
and
they've shown a little bit of it at E3, but it's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, a lot, like, man, I wish there was like a lot more to talk about Dead Space 3, because I mean it's quite a lengthy game, but given like I think when it comes down to, this game has moments that are really fun to play. Like there's no doubt about it. There are some fun moments to play in this game, but I also think the fact that I feel like you and I are kind of like struggling with our conversation right now is because the game lacks quite a bit versus other conversations we have in the past. Like Dead Space 2 I felt like was much more in depth, because it dealt, like you talked about, it dealt with a lot of more inner turmoil. It was more like a personal struggle, very internal. So with this being external here, that it's and just a typical run-of-the-mill story about gotta save the world again, gotta save Earth, and then.
Well, I was gonna say Earth really didn't have anything to do. I mean, there was a marker on Earth.
Yeah.
But then they had to escape, like right at the very beginning of the game, and go back to the Terra Nova, whatever
the ship. Yeah.
Terra not Terra Nova. The snow planet.
Yeah.
What was that called? Volantis.
Something like that.
It's Volantis or something like that. But then they do. They figure you go to the end. There's all this alien technology. You figure out how to stop the thing from destroying the thing. It's very much like Halo, almost in a sort of way. But they also tend to copy a little bit of Halo 2, which I don't believe you've played.
No.
Where I'm just gonna have to, like, it's not really a big spoiler, but
just
like,
go for it. They
bring the Covenant, or they bring the Flood back to Earth, supposedly. In Halo 2, it's there's with the DLC Awakened, there's a moment at the end where, because the whole point of the moon, the necromorph moon, there's like a moon that this ice planet has, and it's pretty much a giant friggin' necromorph, and it doesn't have any sort of control, there's no way to like really control it or anything like that. So when they destroy it and it's all in shattered pieces or whatever, it's assumed that Isaac dies at the end of. Well, no. After the credits, you hear like an audio log, kind of like it's Isaac like going Ellie, you know. So it's him waking up, and that's where Awaken begins. And I thought Awaken would be more of a like a dream sequence, or as Isaac's dying or John Carver's dying. Like I would assume that because when they wake up and they're like lying there, and he's like, Isaac's like, I don't understand, how do we make it? And Carver's like, who cares? Let's just keep going. Like the fact that they don't go, wow, I can't believe we just survived that huge explosion and killed all that stuff, and still there's not a scratch on us, you know, except on our souls. Let's just keep walking. You know, maybe we could find a way off this place. And sure enough, you it's kind of like a quick retread of some environments that were already used in Dead Space 3, but it's still cool to bust through some of that and get a little bit of like, I think the best part of Awakened is probably that ending where you guys do fly your ship back to Earth, only to find that that's how that one of the moons, there's like more moons made out of necromorphs in there, and they're attacking Earth already. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's crazy that there hasn't been a Dead Space 4 yet, but you know it underdeveloped for them, or it undersold.
Yeah, but even with the Awaken DLC, and you know we just kind of revealed it, the Awaken DLC has been claimed by critics and I think other fans of the game, or just players in general, like this is the true ending of Dead Space 3.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Because now it's like the Master. There's that, like I said, there's a moment at the end of Halo 2 where Flood comes back to Earth, and Master Chief's like, it's time to finish the fight. This is totally a finish the fight moment for Isaac. Like now that the necromorphs are going to be there on Earth, because there wasn't at the beginning of the game, there wasn't any necromorphs on Earth. At least I don't think they were.
No.
I think you had to fight no, there was necromorphs, because you had to fight. There was a what was it? The big rock. What is that called? Marker. There was a marker there. It was like surrounded by a building, and it like all gave way, and Danik was like being a weirdo about it. Anyways, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think the Awakened DLC had a lot more stake to it. Like there was like an actual. I felt like there was a lot more heft in that one versus the actual proper game. And maybe it's the fact that it was just like, you know, we gotta survive here right now. Like we have to make it out alive, that sort of thing. And maybe that it's. I mean, it wasn't really like there was like no time sensitive material happening, but it's just the impending threat on your life, and you know, you and I have gotten this far into the game that I almost made it like personal. I was like, no, we gotta make it out alive, man. We gotta do it. We gotta survive. I
mean, as opposed to like the descent into the belly of the beast in Dead Space 3, because it really is just a descent down and down and down and down until finally you do get to the last part of the game. You know, because you gotta travel inward to get pretty much to the marker and stuff like that. Like, you know, there's some markers all around Dead Space 1, and then there's a giant marker in Dead Space 2, but when you have a necromorph moon at the end of 3, like, I mean, they're trying to just go bigger and bigger, a bigger Death Star, you know, big whoop, you know. So and some of these deaths, and like, you know, there's a moment in the game where you assume Ellie is gone. You assume that she's dead, and you have to kind of like let her go, or other characters die on your journey up into it, and none of it feels at all. It's all flat. It's just like I'm just gonna keep railing on the writing here, but I should say, as I'm sitting there complaining about all this flat story, is it's still just science fiction-y fun. It's still a crazy shooter survival horror mess. It's an amalgamation at this point. I wouldn't say, hey, if you want the real Dead Space experience, you gotta try 3, skip the other ones. No, I would say, Dead Space, you do the first two. Like I think those are true Dead Space games. This one is turning into a little bit of a third-person shooter thing, but the environments are, and the presentation is science fiction through and through. I mean, who doesn't love being in their spacesuit, traveling around on the planet and seeing aliens and stuff like that, and seeing these science fiction-y environments that are real industrial looking and stuff like that. It's just cool looking, and the weapons are really cool, and I felt like a lot of the crafting and stuff like that. While I liked doing it in the first time, and I thought, oh, I could make whatever I wanted out of this and stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's almost too much. I almost wish it was a little bit more simplified.
Yeah, it was an overabundance of abilities too. Like, I think it's great that you can craft like multiple guns at your disposal, and it's like, okay, now how about making a gun from scratch? And I'm thinking, no, that's not what I want to do.
Well, and you have the option to not do it. Like you don't
yeah. That's what I mean. But even like with other blueprints, like other guns that you've made, you could take that blueprint and then you can kind of customize to whatever you wanted, and that's fine and dandy. I'm at the point, like, I don't feel like the game doesn't provide itself to be that type of thing, to be like that really in depth with a craft system. That game does not present itself to be that matter at all. So whatever like blueprint they had, I was like, okay, I'll just go with that, and then I'll just tack, add-ons, that, if I would heal myself, it would heal you, or if I would like replenish my stasis, it would replenish your stasis, or vice versa. That kind of stuff was fine and dandy. I like that. But as for like creating a craft, like crafting a gun from ground up, I was just like, nope, no, I'm just not invested. This game does not present itself to be that
well,
thing.
Luckily it doesn't force you to.
Thank God.
You do find different crafting things throughout the game, and I found myself really not engaging with it that much. I'd find something that it worked and I'd stick with it, and I'd just build up that gun.
Mm-hmm.
But it does do a good job of, by the end of the game, you can pretty much craft whatever the hell you want. Because you have enough and they're giving you enough. And if you go through and drop your robots down and how we had like a robot like computer thing, and in certain parts of the map when we were walking around, it would detect this is where you're supposed to put your stuff, and you can go it'll gather up resources for you at the next bench. By the way, you craft at these benches. And going on those side missions will sometimes give you all sorts of power-ups to your gun and parts to your gun, and yeah, I mean, like I said, it's entirely optional. You can do it if you'd like, but you don't have to. And for the most part, I don't. I usually just pick one that I like and just tack on stuff that I love. But for the most part, yeah, it's something that's there, I think, to try to add value, but maybe it makes more sense with New Game Plus, where you just start the game super powerful with your awesome guns, and you just kick some ass all the way through, and maybe even build them up even more. I bet that's, that this was in the era of, oh man, we gotta stop them from taking this game back, the next week to GameStop and trying to sell it back. We need to keep them to, but we don't want to put multiplayer in it, so how do we keep them to keep the game, So
I can't return the game. It's
well, yeah, we both have it on Origin, so
yeah, we're stuck with it regardless. And then again, I never really traded any games back to GameStop for whatever reason. And
well, you might not have. I'm just saying, like, the industry, they're getting a lot of these single player experiences that take a week for some to finish or play, and then immediot go trade it in. It's just a reality.
Yep, that's the unfortunate reality of it. So with that said, Ben, do you want to go into final thoughts about this thing?
We can do it. I didn't have any notes anyways, but we can get into our final things.
Yeah. Actually, I'll go first here.
Okay.
As the game proper, I think the best way to play it is with co-op. Just like with any other game, just having a friend there is always awesome. I think this game has great moments. Keyword again, moments. As an overall package in terms of character, story, those are very weak, but the guns themselves allow you to experiment, and they have a variety, and the customizations is there at your disposal. Whether or not you want to craft from the ground up, or start with a blueprint, and then with that blueprint you can do whatever you want with it, I think that's great. So the game gives you options, so you're not forced one way to do something. That's absolutely perfect. That's balance right there, and I think that's great. But ultimately, I think this game was just so focused on story here that it really became evident that they didn't have much to offer, and the character of Isaac, from 1 and 2, it's just a shame because he's not interesting. The only other person that is interesting is Carver, and you only get him if you have 2 people playing online, and that's it. Like if you don't, then well, I can't speak for the single player experience. Ben can only do that right now. But I would only recommend, from my perspective, play with 2 people because it is a fun shooter. As a shooter, it's great. I think it still holds up. It's a lot of fun from the shooting aspect of the game. So that would be my recommendation. I would recommend getting Awakened as well. That is I think that's a must. It's only like 2 to 3 hours, if that. DLC, so and I think it's like $10, but in terms of story, it's in of itself is a much interesting aspect of the game that was not in the game proper. So I think overall, Dead Space 3 plus Awakened, I think I can't give it higher than a 7, so I'm gonna go with a 7. It's good. I would say it's good. It got the +1 for me because of the DLC. Otherwise, if I didn't play the DLC, I would give it a 6. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
okay. Cool.
Ben,
my final thoughts. I'm gonna give it 8.5. I actually really liked playing it the first time, and I don't know if I would have rated it high that time. But there's so much value, I think, here with playing the game through the first time and then trying it again with a co-op partner. And I specifically request if I could play Carver, just so I could see some of that content. I don't think it really matters. I mean, you could take or leave some of those Carver moments with and not necessarily the story moments, but like being able to see what I see as compared to what SB was seeing. Like, it's interesting that I'm still describing it to him as we're playing it, so in a way he's still experiencing it. So I think it's still okay. It's one of those things that if you absolutely have to see that content, I suppose you could trade places when someone could be Carver the next time or something like that. But yeah, I think that even with all the story stuff being bad and me knocking it for this entire show, I think that it's still a fun experience. I still had a lot of fun playing co-op with, it's still a very solid action game. The shooting is fine. The Isaac and Carver are both more mobile this time around, as opposed to kind of like these there's more constricting controls in Dead Space 1 and 2, specifically referring to the ability to duck and roll, and some of the guns are bigger. I don't know what you'd use a grenade launcher for in this game, but it's an option. You could test it out, and also you can take a gun and you can craft it, and you use the probe gun and put a little stasis on it, and every time you shoot an enemy, it not only kills them but uses stasis on them, and so like there's so many different possibilities you could do. it's just, and I love the presentation and the environments, as I've said before. But yeah, I that's what I said. I'd give it an 8.5 because of all of that, and not necessarily story. And making it doesn't seem like a weird thing now that you and I have lived through it, SB. But like a Dead Space co-op like mode, like doesn't that sound like, after playing 1 and 2, doesn't that sound like stupid? Doesn't that sound like it shouldn't work? But it totally does. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, even though I'm just like whatever about the story. It's all about seeing whatever gun, If SB had a gun that I didn't have, and I could look over and look at his gun, and I would change mine to be different, it's almost like I could see more content just by playing with another person that way. So it was cool.
That's a good way of looking at it, and I like it. I like it that way. Yeah.
To piggyback off of your Awakened comments, I just think Awakened is just the true ending of the game, so you might as well spend the extra $10 and get it.
Yeah.
I just think that as far as I'm concerned, that's the real ending. So, that would be Awakened would be playing it this time with SB would be the first time I saw it. So, and totally feel like that's a valid, even though it's kind of weird. I think you were satisfied by the story of Awaken. I'm really satisfied by the ending of Awaken. I think the beginning of Awaken is very weird. Like, we didn't die? Who cares? Let's move. Like, it's just so silly. But whatever. It's just like the rest of the game. The rest of the game is like that.
So Ben, Chris had told us, this is a terrible segue, by the way. Chris had mentioned, you had spoke personally to Chris about the next game we're going to do, and he highly recommended that we do not play it because it's just really bad. However, I think because of how bad we've heard this game is, that we should, I think, out of morbid curiosity, we should play it and check it out for ourselves.
I think we should at least have a session where we sit down and try it and give it, I'm not looking for. My expectations are now very low for jumping into this particular title for the next show, but it's possible we may not play the whole thing. Yeah. But we might have. We'll definitely have our experience probably on video or something like that. We can probably talk about it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trample on you there, but go ahead.
That's all right. It's all right. But not only that, Ryan was telling me about how there are mods for this game to like improve the graphics and all that stuff. And I was telling him, you know what? As much as that sounds great to enhance your experience to make it better, I think it'd be best to play the game proper to see how it was initially released and see how that goes, because that's what people judged it off on for the most part when it came to the reviews, and that's something I want to do as well. So if you guys haven't figured it out, if you haven't looked at the website, which we have the list of games, and if you are completely oblivious to it, we are talking about Aliens Colonial Marines. My recommendation is, if you are not familiar with it, I don't know how you wouldn't be, I would read up on it, because it's from Gearbox, which are the people from these are the same people who developed Borderlands, surprisingly. But I think Borderlands has been pretty much the only title they have been successful with. So with that,
in recent years.
Yes, in recent years.
I was gonna say that my first time hearing about Gearbox was Brothers in Arms, and that was I really like that design of that game and the way that's done. Yeah. We'll talk about Gearbox in the future.
Yeah, well, I'm not playing Borderlands. Fuck that game. I'm not.
Tell us how you feel. Tell us how you really feel.
I don't like it at all.
Screenshots for the Colonial Marines looks pretty sweet. It's sad that it's a bit like that. I'm hearing that it's a bad game, because I actually really like the look of this game. If this is what it looks like in motion, which it probably doesn't. I don't know.
Maybe some updated graphics. Who knows? But again, when you have our friend Chris telling us, and then Ryan saying,
2013 game.
It's pretty bad. It makes me really cautious, and I don't know what to expect. So, but yes. So with that being said, for all things co-op mode reviews, you can find us on the internet, of course. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, at Co-op Mode Reviews. Not only that, we are on iTunes as well. Please rate and review and subscribe to the show. Nothing less than 5 stars. That'd be fantastic. Our website is co-modereviews.com, where you can see our scores, the list of games that we are going to play, and all past and basically all episodes that are available. With that being said, I believe we are going to sign out, and thank you for listening and watching in this case too. And believe it or not, we are going to be back with another episode of Aliens Colonial Marines. So have a good one, guys. Have a wonderful day. Take care.